Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew O'Donnell here in Vancouver, and it's my real pleasure to have Irwin here with me, because this is one of those rare exceptions whenever you get someone else kind of informs you about a market is a real huge opportunity that hardly anyone's talking about, and those are the most inefficient at the time, but the ones that you can make exponential kinds of returns. So there's a bit of a lead in there, but Irwin is the president CEO of Desert Mountain Energy. So great to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Andrew. Very happy to be joining you, and I appreciate your interest and excitement, which you share for our company. We think we've got a very unique situation. We're looking forward to drilling, and for those who don't know, we are involved in helium exploration and development in the southwestern United States, principally in the state of Arizona, a place called the Holbrook Basin.
Yes.
The Holbrook Basin has had the richest helium produced anywhere in North America, rivaling the top grades anywhere in the world, namely 8 to 10% helium in the gaseous mixture. And it's had production in very large quantities, over 9 billion cubic feet of helium gas. About 3 years ago, I started hearing about helium, and like most people, I thought of helium as something for balloons,
Yes.
parties, funny voices, all of that. Yeah. Never really considered it a serious industrial gas. But as I learned, the high-tech world has been embracing helium for the past 7 or 10 years. And they have developed all kinds of new applications for helium, with the result that the last few years there has been a very serious shortage in helium, which has led to a nearly tripling of the price of helium. Yeah. And most of this has been happening essentially unbeknownst to investors. We spent a lot of time in the Holbrook Basin. We walked or drove the entire basin over a period of many months. And we identified a number of target areas where we felt there would be the structural prerequisites in place to retain helium deposits in situ. And this is very important because helium is the second lightest atom. It has a very light weight, and as soon as helium is formed in the crust of the Earth, which is typically by a process of radioactive decay of uranium or thorium, yeah. As soon as it's formed, it wants to escape gravity because gravity cannot hold it on to the surface of the Earth. So as fast as helium is formed is as fast as it dissipates into the atmosphere and out into space. So the secret to finding helium is to find a basin where it's being produced, but equally important, where they have geological traps that will retain it in place. We were the early bird 2 years ago, actually in 2017 when we went in there, and we were able to secure what is now up to 65,000 acres of highly prospective helium ground. And we've done our preliminary studies. We did a seismic study. We've had geological reports written and so forth, and we've identified and prioritized some targets, and we're ready to drill.
I had heard about helium being important, but I had been so focused on the electrification of the future, more of the copper and nickel type story. But this is used in everything from the Large Hadron Collider to semiconductors. SpaceX is using helium. It's amazing.
And what's amazing is this has all taken place in the last 5, 7, 10 years.
Yes.
But let me just, for those who aren't familiar, what's happened is that companies like Google, Facebook, Netflix, even Netflix, Yahoo, have all are now buying helium because they've learned that by putting helium in the hard drives of the computers at the big data centers, it causes the computers to run faster and cooler,
Yes.
reducing
Yes.
energy costs substantially. So, someone did a study basically demonstrating that you can reduce the cost of a big data center by 24%
That's
by
huge. Yep.
substituting helium for oxygen. So
Yep.
the result is helium has become a mainstay of the high-tech community. And in addition, it's used by all the semiconductor manufacturers
Yes.
in the manufacturing process. Another big use is MRIs.
Yes.
MRIs have those big magnets which generate a lot of heat.
Yep.
So typically, all the MRIs are using helium as a coolant as well. Fiber optic cable uses
Yep.
helium. Go into the supermarket, you use a barcode reader,
Yes. Yes.
helium.
Helium.
It's everywhere now in everyday life. Google's using it in a big project they have to bring internet all around the world now.
Yes. That is it. The Loon project, I think it's called.
That's right. It's called
Yes.
Project Loon.
Yep.
Exactly. And so every day, somebody announces another use for helium. The current crisis involving COVID-19 has basically created an economic shutdown across the board. Pretty much almost all industries, almost all countries. And so helium demand short term has been affected just as the demand for all other industrial commodities, gases, everything else. However, helium has not been hit nearly so hard as many other commodities because the computer industry is still going strong. Semiconductors manufacturers are still operating. These are strategic industries. The U.S. government is insisting that they stay open.
Yeah.
And so helium demand has been tempered and quieted, but there's still a lot of use going on.
And I love it too because it's an important point, is that it's in your backyard. It isn't something that China's been stockpiling, something like a rare earth or anything. It's something that the U.S. controls, and it's critical. Those are two things that I think are extremely important for the West in general. But to have that kind of stranglehold on such a critical element moving forward is necessary, and I think it's really important, and not to be missed for any generalist investor or anyone looking at this. That's a big factor.
Well, one of the biggest costs of helium, or any gas for that matter, is transporting it from the wellhead to the refineries and ultimately then to the end users. Well, the nice thing about our project in Arizona as well as Oklahoma is we're very close to the big high-tech end users. You know, Intel, for instance, has a number of facilities right in Arizona that utilize helium. All the big internet companies, computer companies, tend to be on the West Coast U.S. That's where a lot of demand is. And
yes, and I think there's certainly, if nothing else, on this COVID pandemic crisis, whatever you want to call it, is that people seem to be much more interested in, are we making these things at home? Or do we have access to this at home? Not only for the cost, but just, is this something that we can rely on for ourselves, that we can use? And it's being so critical for any high-tech use, I think is so wonderful. And the other thing that you touched on is, are you the team? Like, is Desert Mountain Energy the team? And I want to say that yes, you've got a team assembled, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will say a few things. You have your undergraduate degree in economics from Princeton, and your degree in law from Harvard Law.
That's right.
So you're certainly well qualified to be running and looking at different entrepreneurial projects, which you've done as well. You've had a really exciting career, not only with Pan Africa, but also you've worked in Hollywood with like either creative management or ICM, as well as who else did you work?
I was at Warner Brothers for a while.
Warner Brothers, yes.
And I founded a medical device company called North American Scientific.
Yes.
Which we took public on the old Vancouver Stock Exchange. That company did its first financing at 25 cents. You could have bought the stock as low as 16 cents at one day.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it became the pioneer in developing these radioisotope seeds for prostate cancer, the little seeds that are implanted in the prostate to emit a constant beam of radiation.
Yeah.
And basically, stock got up to $41 a share. Big success story. And we had a lot of very happy investors.
Sure.
We followed that up. I helped structure a company called Biosource International, California-based biotech company. That one as well went from pennies to dollars on NASDAQ.
Yeah.
And when I got involved in the commodity super cycle, saw that opportunity, went down to Madagascar, got the biggest property position for Pan African Mining Corp, and we sold that company 4.5 years later for a big uplift. So I like to look for niche opportunities that are a little bit off the beaten path,
yeah,
where we can get in early and get an early mover's advantage,
yeah,
and push that to our advantage. And that strategy has worked very well on 3 or 4 different occasions. We've had a lot of success, and I fully expect Desert Mountain Energy to be another one that essentially takes its early mover advantage in a niche commodity, makes a success, and positions itself to reward its investors handsomely.
So Irwin, I wanted to touch base on what's happened at the beginning of the week, because that's, Monday, Tuesday was quite a whirlwind when we look at the oil and gas markets. We saw oil trading at minus $37. So someone was willing to pay someone in the futures contract to take delivery. It was a very special, unique situation, but it's setting up this change in look of energy, along with the coronavirus, along with the economic stall that we had. But it also lends a huge opportunity towards Desert Mountain Energy, helium, and that's a lot there, I know. But maybe we could just kind of unpackage first your thoughts on the oil and gas energy situation first, and we'll lead into that helium.
Absolutely. So the events of the last few days surrounding the expiration of the April commodities contract for oil, West Texas Intermediate, which you refer to, essentially is a further example of the collapse in the oil and gas market of the pricing structure. This started with the dispute between Saudi Arabia and Russia, which led to much lower oil prices, and it has continued to the point where, as of a couple days ago, there was such a glut of oil in the world's supply chain that people couldn't even take delivery. Ships were sitting in ports in China and India, unable to unload natural gas, unable to unload oil. And prices deteriorated to where people were actually willing to pay to have someone take oil off their hands, because they had committed to buy it and had nowhere to store it and to accept delivery.
Yeah.
So against that backdrop, what we see is the likelihood for very significant contraction in future oil and gas production. Individual producers of gas and oil are now faced with very difficult decisions as to whether they need to shut in fields, postpone development of new fields, new offshore wells, and the likelihood is we're going to see a serious contraction in the supply of oil and gas. Much of the world's helium supply, in fact, over 90% of the world's helium supply is associated with oil and gas production. In fact, it's called secondary production because the helium is a byproduct of the production of either oil or gas or liquefaction of natural gas. So what we think is going to happen is you're going to see a further contraction in the world helium supply as a result now of this collapse in oil and gas prices and a future reduction in oil and gas production. That will lead to higher helium prices once again, and a renewal of the shortage that had existed. For those, just to remind our listeners, helium was in great demand. The past couple of years, prices have essentially tripled due to the new demands from the high-tech economy and the new economy. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a slowdown in worldwide activity, which is also affecting helium to a modest degree. But once people are back to work and we're past this COVID crisis, all the indicators suggest a new boom in helium prices once again, with very tight supply and a new potential helium shortage, because helium demand keeps increasing, and now we see another potential reason that the helium supply may contract. So it's quite an interesting dynamic. Desert Mountain Energy is in a unique position. We're exploring and developing helium resources in Arizona's Holbrook Basin. Well, the basin has been fortunate to produce among the highest grade helium in the world, 8 to 10% grades, which means we're looking for primary helium production, not secondary helium production associated with oil and gas. So we're faced with a situation where we don't need to have high oil and gas prices for the helium to be economic in Arizona. And we're going ahead full bore with our project, hoping to start drilling in June to look for helium. So there has been a second benefit of this current economic scenario, insofar as the curtailment of oil and gas exploration has led to a decline in the cost of drilling and exploration, very sharp decline, as much as 25 to 50% in the costs. And as you know, we're just getting ready to start drilling in June. This is going to reduce our costs of each well, which plays into our favor. So we're in a positive position. Our share price today is 22 cents, which is where we did our recent financing. We have recouped the small amount that the stock had declined during the crash, and we're right back to where we were, which puts us among a very small minority of stocks who've essentially held their value over the last month or so. So we're very excited about the future, looking forward to getting to work. No one on our team has suffered any illness as a result of the pandemic. We're very grateful for that, and looking forward to getting in the field and working in June.
Couldn't agree more. And I want to thank you for taking the time to walk us through this, help educate me a little bit on helium. I mean, we're going to want to have you on real soon again anyway, because you've had a lot of different successes out there. You've seen a lot of different markets. And, you know, with someone like yourself, who's got a great track record, is onto something, it's important for people to listen. And I think this is a really highlighted, critical area that deserves a lot of attention.
I appreciate it. Great to have a chance to get in front of some of your people. And I hope that you'll continue to share our enthusiasm, because I think we're sitting on a big winner waiting to happen.
This really is exciting. Thanks so much, Irwin. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
And take care.
We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.